Greetings, book lovers, and get ready for a literary adventure that will ignite your imagination. Join me as we traverse the captivating landscapes of the Corrections by Jonathan Franzen. Liking and subscribing, following my channel is like giving me a virtual pat on the back. If you appreciate my work, please hit that like button and join the community by subscribing, following. And I always look forward to reading your comments, so don't hesitate to share your thoughts. The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen is the story of a typical Midwestern circle of relatives that is confronted with the issues of antique age and infection. The Lamberts, Enid and Alfred, have grown kids residing at the East Coast who they want to spend Christmas at their St. Jude home. She desires one closing Christmas in St. Jude, and this sets off a whole chain of activities. Alfred has been snoozing, given that lunch, and is awaiting Enid to reach home. They stay in a residence complete of tension, which Enid feels is due to Alfred's loss of hobby in existence. She can't get him interested in hobbies or anything else. She is searching out a letter that arrived from Axon Organization within the drawers, which might be full of billing notices. She refers to Alfred as the governing force due to the fact he raids the drawers at instances. She additionally raids his filing cupboard. Maximum in their warfare is waged at the basement ping-pong table, which both attempts to apply for their very own matters. Alfred spends his time at domestic now that he is retired from the Midland Pacific Railroad. Inside the failure, the Lamberts are traveling to visit their youngsters. Their son Chip meets them at the airport and wonders how he's going to survive their go-to. Chip is spending time with them before driving them to the pier for his or her cruise. Enid thinks that Chip works for the Wall Avenue magazine. They take a cab to Chip's condo and feature a dialogue over the quantity of the inn Chip offers to the cab-driving force. His lady friend, Julia Vraze, is waiting in his apartment, and Chip is relieved to discover her there. After talking to Enid, Julia has to depart. Chip tells Enid that Denise, his sister, is coming to lunch. Chip has written a play that he submitted to movie manufacturer Eden Procuro, and he is ready to peer if it's miles desirable. Julia says they experience it, has too many references to breasts, and Chip says he can make anything corrections which can be required. He asks Denise to live with their parents even as he corrects the script. As he leaves, she tells him that she cannot deliver him any more money on the grounds that he already owes her greater than $20,000. Chip has continually been a success till his female friend broke up with him and started an affair with a lady scholar named Melissa Paquette. This prices him his task. Melissa argues with Chip in class that his motive is to make the students hate the equal matters that he hates. Soon the relaxation or the scholars are questioning his motives and feature him at the protective. He is stored by way of the bell ringing, terminating the elegance and the semester. Chip is disenchanted because he thinks that he's doing something that is socially beneficial, which is what his father always said he have to do. He spends the summertime in England and Scotland rather than running at the book he had deliberate to paintings on. One Friday night, Melissa stops through his rental. She gives him a plate of cupcakes and walks out. At Halloween, she leaves a Halloween bag of sweet at his door. Melissa says she discovered loads in his magnificence. She comes to his workplace, tells him approximately her own family background, and makes physical advances which he rebuffs. She kisses him at the cheek while she leaves. Eventually, they turn out to be involved in a physical relationship and go away for a weekend together. They stay in an inn room till Melissa leaves to satisfy her father. She leaves in a cab. Enid is telling Denise how Alfred fell down the basement stairs whilst carrying a 12-pound bag of pecans. She is still finding the pecans. She says that Gary, Denise's brother wants Enid and Alfred to promote their residence and move to Philadelphia. He wants them to move into an assisted dwelling environment. As they speak me, Alfred falls off the sofa as Denise is getting ready lunch. Denise says that Alfred is depressed. She brings Alfred a plate of snacks and sees that his arms are shaking. Denise is aware of that Alfred does not need her to peer him with what's called his soreness. Alfred has a hard time dealing with his anguish. That's a frame he can't continually manipulate. He have been the top of the engineering branch and was used to having his orders obeyed, and now his frame might not obey him. Enid is telling Denise that she is involved approximately their health insurance coverage as Denise fixes lunch. She tells Denise about the letter from Axon imparting money for considered one of Alfred's patents. He wouldn't ask for extra cash. Enid failed to mail the agreement that Alfred had signed. Denise tells Enid to permit Alfred manage his very own business dealings. Enid says she wants the circle of relatives to have one remaining Christmas in St. Jude rather than visiting with Alfred to Philadelphia. Chip tells Denise approximately his state of affairs with Melissa and why he was fired. Denise indicates that he communicate to her pal, Julia, Ray's approximately a writing process. That first Christmas, he keeps calling Melissa and leaving messages. This is the day of his father's 75th birthday, and Denise has to prod him to name Alfred, which he does. He tells his dad and mom that he has decided no longer to train and to turn out to be a writer. Enid thinks that he have to wait till after he has tenure. Chip borrows $10,000 from Denise and has a lawyer to fight his termination, but loses. He borrows extra money and begins courting Julia. He reveals a element, time function, as a proofreader through Julia's contacts, after which Julia tells him that she is married to the deputy top minister of Lithuania, who's the ambassador to the United Nations. When he is recalled, she remains in New York. He starts off evolved paintings on his play at the same time as he is residing at the cash he borrowed from Denise. Enid is telling Denise approximately a celebration she and Alfred attended. Enid insists that she is not an excellent cook. The three of them consume lunch. Alfred claims that he isn't always well, and Enid insists that what he has is very moderate. Enid insists that Chip works for a law firm, and Denise tells her that she should not lie. Alfred tells here that Chip will do what he needs. Chip is wandering in the rain, searching out a functioning pay cell phone. He's searching for his script and make the corrections before Eden Procuro reads it. Chip is going to Eden's office, where Eden introduces him to Julia's husband. Eden recommends Chip for the process that Gitanas desires and leaves then to speak. Gitanas is now an entrepreneur and tells Chip that Lithuania privatized very quickly to qualify for World Bank cash. When they skilled financial problems, they located that most in their businesses have been ordinarily American-owned. Gitanas is searching out someone to work on his web pages wherein he sells sand and gravel. Eden facilitates negotiate the economic phrases of the deal. Both Enid and Alfred like weddings, and Enid constantly dreamed of the form of wedding Denise might have. However, Denise eloped together with her boss, Emil Berger, and this disenchanted Enid. She is concerned by means of the reality that her kids did not appear to need the identical things that her pals' youngsters desired. Information of Denise's marriage introduced on Alfred's first assault of tremors. Enid appears to experience that Denise is involved with a married guy, and that they have phrases approximately the situation while doing the dishes. Denise wants to recognize what Gary informed her, and Alfred tells Enid to drop the issue. Gitanas began selling things of Lithuania, like paying to have a street named as a funny story, The web page changed into alleged to be satiric. However, human beings began to send cash. He tells Chip the tale while they are in a cab. Chip now has cash from the deal and is in a rush to peer his mother and father. He will soon be leaving for Lithuania, and Gitana's plans to wait downstairs inside the constructing while Chip packs. Whilst Chip reaches his rental, no one is there. Denise is going inside the taxi together with her mother and father to the pier. Earlier than they board the ship, each Alfred and Enid inform her to talk to Chip and Gary approximately Christmas in St. Jude. Chip and Gitana's board a flight to Helsinki at Kennedy. Gitana starts to talk about Julia. Chip learns that Gitana's has surveillance cameras in Julia's condo that he video display units by using computer. In the more he notion about it, the angrier he got. Gary Lambert is growing film in his darkroom. His spouse Carolina is out of doors gambling ball with the boys. Enid calls to look if they'll come to St. Jude for Christmas. Caroline doesn't want to go to St. Jude. She says that she hurt her again and tells him to name Enid lower back. He tells her to call for an ambulance for her again. Gary says that they don't know about Christmas and that she and Alfred need to prevent in after their cruise. He then has a fight with Caroline about her eavesdropping on the call. Enid hangs up, and while Gary calls her returned, he learns approximately the letter from Axon and the patent. He tells Enid to ask for a $100,000 licensing price plus a 1% royalty on gross sales. When he tells Alfred that, Alfred inform him what he owes is none of Gary's enterprise. After the smartphone call, he learns that his son, Caleb, desires to purchase a surveillance device to display the kitchen. Gary catches Caroline eavesdropping on his dialogue with Caleb and asks why. She tells him that it's far his paranoia. Aaron tells Gary to forestall shouting at his mother. Gary makes a decision that Caleb cannot place surveillance system inside the kitchen when Caroline says he has his own money and may spend it as he wants. Gary begins cooking mixed grill for dinner. He does most of the family's cooking. Whilst he criticizes Caroline, she leaves the desk and Caleb and Aaron go with her. After doing the dishes, Gary works on his computer performing a web search for Axon Business Enterprise. When he finishes his studies on Axon, he begins to examine porno. He then calls his dad and mom in St. Jude. Again, Alfred tells him that Axon is none of his enterprise and that he and Enid will go to for 2 days the following month and that Christmas will be in St. Jude. He desires them to all be civil with every other. Gary has looked over the residence in St. Jude and located many things wrong with it. He feels his mother and father need to sell the residence now. He talks to Alfred approximately it, but he says Enid does not need to depart. The house is a source of pride for her. Whilst Gary tells Alfred that he is clinically depressed, Alfred responds that he, Gary, is also depressed. Enid brings up the situation of Christmas once more, and Gary asks if she will be able to sell the house if they arrive for Christmas. She says maybe. Whilst Gary mentions Christmas to Caroline, she tells him that he is depressed. She also says that the 2 older boys will no longer go along with him. She will not go to St. Jude, and she or he and the older boys are not looking forward to their grandparents' go-to. Gary appears to count on them to meet Enid's requirements. Caroline says there is nothing wrong with the way they stay their lives, and Gary always sides with Enid. Gary says the St. Jude argument can also give up their marriage. Denise and Gary attend an Axon shareholders meeting in Philadelphia. Gary makes a decision to put money into Axon. The Axon company produces gadget that allows individuals who suffer from Parkinson's ailment. Denise tells Gary that they have to sign up Alfred to the program. Gary and Caroline are nonetheless having issues over the St. Jude go to vacation at Christmas. Gary orders tickets for the own family when he reveals them on sale. Throughout the intermission at the Axon presentation, Denise and Gary speak to the Axon body of workers. Gary tells them that they should have offered more money to Alfred. Denise asks approximately inclusive of Alfred in their testing program. They are saying he's must be at the East Coast to be a part of this system. After they walk out, Denise and Gary discuss in which Alfred could live and how he might get to the Trying Out webpage in Schwenksville. Gary feels that Enid merits a higher lifestyle than she has now. He says Alfred can take a seat in his chair till he dies for all he cares. Denise shows that Enid and Gary lived together with her for the 6 months of the treatment program. During that point, they are able to determine if they like residing in Philadelphia. They both agree that they have to spend one final Christmas in St. Jude, given the age of their parents. Whilst he returns to his workplace, he reveals several calls from Caroline. She says that anyone is sitting in a vehicle in the front in their residence, and she or he is afraid to exit. He tells her to name on her mobile phone and stay on the road with him while she walks to the automobile. She does this and finds the automobile long past while she reaches the road. Whilst Gary arrives home, he notices that their security structure sign is lacking, as Caroline stated it was. He hangs another signal. Gary makes a martini and cooks mixed grill for dinner. After dinner, he trims the hedges and cuts his thumb. He is too inebriated to pressure to the medical institution and might not ask Caroline, so he tries to bandage the wound himself. As he goes for some other drink, he notices Caleb's safety camera following his actions. Gary cleans up the mess and then is going upstairs to play chess with Aaron, his hand nevertheless wrapped in a towel. The following morning, Gary stays domestic. He tells Caroline that she does not have to go to St. Jude and that he agrees that he's depressed. The phone rings. It's Miles Enid calling from the deliver. Alfred and Enid are aboard the Gunnar Myrdal in a cabin without a porthole. Enid did now not want to spend the extra cash for a porthole. When Enid is pregnant with Denise, she asks Alfred to buy a positive stock. He feels that finance is none of her commercial enterprise and leaves for an 11-day commercial enterprise journey without even saying goodbye to her. He needs her to move some magazines and glass jars even as he is gone. She does now not, and he's mad while he comes home and finds out. Whilst Chip turned into a boy, he was a very fussy eater. Enid could become disenchanted at getting ready healthful food and looking her own family, no longer want to eat them. She used to depart the field to Alfred. Alfred changed into a newbie inventor and has his lab within the basement in which he spent a good deal of his time. The kids understand to by no means input his lab. That first nighttime home after his enterprise journey, Chip refuses to eat his dinner and spends the night sitting on the desk. As soon as Alfred goes to mattress at midnight, Enid brings up the query of the inventory again, and he still says no. Enid had gone to bed, leaving Chip sitting at the table, pronouncing Alfred is the one who informed Chip to sit down there. Alfred feels that Enid is the usage of Chip towards him and says so. Enid starts to cry. Alfred left on his trip without announcing goodbye and is arrived home and spends the evening inside the lab. He says that there are motives for his conduct. Alfred awakens at 3 inside the morning on the deliver. His mistress, Sleep, has abandoned him. He has an imaginary communication along with his infection that he calls a turd. He calls out to Enid for help since he cannot control his excrements, but she is asleep. He crawls to the toilet where he tries to put on more diapers. However, he can't peel the tape. Again, he calls out to Enid for assist. Enid is playing the primary good night's sleep she'd had in a long time. She saw people on the cruise taking part in life the manner she desired Alfred to. At dinner, he declares that he's tired and going to bed at 7 o'clock. He tells Enid to stay and enjoy herself. Enid remains on the desk and talks to some from Europe. Enid and a woman named Sylvia Roth visit the casino where Enid wins on the slot machines. Then they visit a concert and then to an ice cream social. She and Sylvia talk approximately their youngsters and grandchildren. Sylvia says that she and her husband, Ted, are at the cruise due to the fact in days the man who killed their daughter could be achieved in Pennsylvania. Sylvia has spent time in therapy to deal with the grief and uses art to heal. She, in the end, realizes that she needs Shelley Winters, the man who killed her daughter, lifeless. Her husband, Ted, deals with the state of affairs via refusing to confess that it happened. He might not talk approximately it, and just says that their daughter is dead. This is the first day of the cruise. Again, in her cabin, she has a tendency to Alfred, getting him equipped for mattress. She signed up for a excursion of historical Newport, Rhode Island tomorrow. Alfred refuses to go along with the tour, so Enid is going with Sylvia. Enid is going to the ship's infirmary to talk about Alfred and finds that the health practitioner recommends medicinal drug for her. They talk the drug and Enid involves like the concept of a tablet in order to assist her to loosen up, sleep higher, and revel in the cruise extra. She pays $150 for the infirmary visit and the drug Aslan. She returns to her cabin and swallows a tablet. The next morning, when she awakens, she finds Arthur within the bathroom. He'd had a dream inside the night and have become harassed. She helps him dress. At breakfast, the human beings at their desk communicate approximately the stocks they very own. Enid learns that Sylvia and Ted have recently dined on the Generator, the eating place Denise works at. Ted talks approximately Aslan and calls it grandmother's helper. Enid tells Alfred to lie inside the sun and examine at the same time as she and Sylvia attend the funding lecture. While on deck, Alfred has a trouble controlling his bladder. He additionally cannot determine the precise place of the ship. The investments lecture, given by way of Jim Crolius, talks approximately changes coming inside the inventory marketplace. The segment entitled The Generator starts a fee-volved with a discussion of the Fazios, who were Teamsters. Nick and Colleen adopt Billy while he is 12 months vintage and then have 3 daughters. Robin, the oldest daughter, becomes usually tormented by Billy. Robin becomes a chum of Denise. Billy beat and almost kills a man named Rick Flamberg, and he acts as his personal defense legal professional in court docket, having refused all gives of help. Robin often visits the Flamberg-owned family. Robin, husband, Brian Callahan, sells his commercial enterprise and asks Robin where she wants to flow. She says she does no longer want to move. She tells Denise that they offered a big house and days later, Billy attacked Flamberg. At some stage in the trial, Robin quits her job and starts a philanthropic undertaking to teach natural gardening to underprivileged children. For the reason that Brian is stuck in an area wherein he didn't want to stay, he starts off evolved dining at a number of the better restaurants in Philadelphia, which is how he meets Denise. Denise has never obtained the kind of offer she receives from Brian Callahan. She has always been very competitive. She had labored at Midpack before the merger and turned into called an excellent, reliable worker. One way, as she sits in the lunchroom, she listens to the men speak me approximately the merger and the hopes they have. Later that evening, She asks Alfred approximately it, and he says that most of the men will lose their jobs. He tells her now not to speak about it at the workplace. Denise would not date Pliny because she doesn't romantically like the boys she is aware of. In the future, a married man at work, Don Armour, asks her to dinner, and she accepts. She does not have lots of an urge for food and simply has iced tea and French fries. On the grounds that her mother and father are out of Metropolis, she takes him home and to her bedroom. He leaves earlier than her parents arrive domestic. Denise would not realize how to break off the connection and sees him again for the subsequent 3 weeks. She lies to her parents approximately in which she is going. In fall, she enters Skidmore College, close to Philadelphia. This is where she meets Julia Vrays. Denise spends summer in the Hamptons with pals, operating as a dishwasher. She has an affair together with her female friend's father, Ed Sterling. Subsequently, Denise quits school, travels to France and Italy, and then returns to Philadelphia and takes an activity as a prepared dinner. She then goes to work for Emil Berger, whom she marries and then turns into concerned in a lesbian affair to force him to leave her. She begins seeing Brian Callahan. He indicates her the website of the eating place he is making plans. He can pay her until the eating place is opened and desires her to travel to Europe to devise the menu. Brian introduces Denise to his mother and father and to Robin. Denise desires her dad and mom to include to Europe, but Alfred can't manage the experience and Enid will now not go away him alone, so Denise leaves for Frankfurt. She travels around Germany and Austria and then meets Brian in Paris. In Paris, Brian tells Denise how Robin has now not been glad considering that he sold the corporation. Brian says he wants to have a laugh with the money. They spend 10 days together without any bodily involvement until 2 nights earlier than they may be to leave. Despite the fact that they stop short of involvement, he feels guilty afterward. Financial institution within the States, she is surprised at the progress made at the restaurant. She starts off evolved to paintings at the menu. She wishes the reviewers to pay greater attention to the food than to the physical surroundings. Denise eats at one-of-a-kind eating places to size up the opposition. Her dating with Brian is now more businesslike. Someday, Denise walks over to look Robin's lawn project. Robin is there and explains why she did not visit Paris with Brian. Denise and Robin determine to have dinner together given that her daughters, Erin and Sinead, are at a ball recreation with their father. They communicate as they stroll to Denise's apartment. As they consume, Robin admits that she sensed Denise as a rival. They speak about Brian and Denise tells Robin that Brian wishes her to be greater bourgeois. She and Robin turn out to be friends, and Denise will become a common traveler at the Callahan Hauser at the Callahan House. She babysits with the girls whilst Robin and Brian exit. She is drawn to Robin. While the restaurant kitchen is finished, Denise trains her crew. She has 20 French, Italian, and Austria entrees at the menu. The restaurant opens in March, 12 months after Denise has been on Brian's payroll. By this time, Denise is dozing with Robin. The restaurant is a success, and Denise is working lengthy, difficult hours. However, she still runs out to meet Robin whenever she calls. While Robin stops calling, Denise goes to their residence and shall wee herself in together with her key. She reveals condom wrappers inside the bedroom. She returns to the restaurant. Day after today, Robin appears and says they cannot meet like they used to. They destroy it off. Denise didn't need to lose her activity. She is turning into well-known with interviews and visitor appearances. Per week later, Brian asks Denise if she and Robin had an argument. She says she has just been too busy with paintings. He tells her that he is taking into consideration moving out of the house. It's miles right now that Denise is going to the Big Apple to meet Enid and Alfred. Brian has been going around with Circular Enterprise people, seeing that he began making an investment in production. One night time, he invitations Denise out to dinner with his movie industry friends. He tells her that his marriage is ended. He spends the night at Denise's, and the next morning, Robin seems on the door. Denise tells Robin she can meet her that afternoon. Then Gary calls and says that Alfred fell off the cruise ship. He is alive and may be key. Robin appears on the door again, having realized that Brian is there. Brian and Robin have a shouting match upstairs. Robin walks out, and Brian tells Denise that she is fired. Denise and Chip communicate via electronic mail. She tells him about their father's accident and that she has been fired from her process. They write backward and forward discussing Christmas until Chip stops answering. Chip's internet site is launched in November, and he and Gitanas rejoice the release. They're selling things just like the condo of Lithuanian troops at a 50% discount. The more satirical and outrageous their services, the extra cash they make. He's glad and fairly prosperous in Vilnius, and plans to stay there till he repays his debts, which he figures could be approximately 6 months. Then he's going to meet the family in Philadelphia. However, the political state of affairs in Lithuania is deteriorating. Because the hazard increases, Gitanas hires greater bodyguards. While civil unrest starts in Vilnius, Gitanas gives Chip his severance pay and tells him to move back to the United States. Chip packs and leaves for the airport, hoping that he and Gitanas will meet in New York. There are long strains at the airport. Chip calls Enid and tells her that he is on his manor. Afterward, one of the women notices a tank out of doors. Then the lighting fixtures within the airport exit. Alfred is unpacking the Christmas decorations in St. Jude. Enid doesn't allow him to power now, so he does not need to visit the shop to update broken mild strings. He attempts to restoration the strings that don't walk but can't. He recalls falling off the Gunnar Myrtle and clinging to the flotation device. He makes a desire in the water while he did now not allow cross and drown. He is aware of that he chose a nursing domestic future. Alfred had imagined a retirement of looking, fishing, and undertaking. He looks forward to Christmas because his youngsters are coming. Enid misses the Aslan drugs she were taking on the cruise. Her personal doctor, Dr. Hedgepeth, wouldn't supply her a nap useful resource. She asks her buddy, Bia, if she could buy some Aslan cruiser in Europe. Enid buys the aircraft tickets to Philadelphia if you want to see if Alfred qualifies for the Take a Look at program. She is also searching forward to the appearance of her kids and grandson Jonah for Christmas. For Christmas. Gary calls to say that Jonah is unwell and that he can be coming to St. Jude on my own. Chip calls to mention he's going to arrive the following day. The following day, Gary arrives. He makes it clear to Enid that he won't assist Alfred if he gets into state of affairs he should not be in, like being stuck within the tub, whilst he need to be the use of the babe. That evening, the three of them go to see the Christmasland light show. Tomorrow, Gary drives to the Scientific Deliver, keep to buy a stool and bar to restore the shower so Alfred can use it. He does it simplest because he promised Enid he would do whatever she requested. Bia drops off a Christmas gift for the Lamberts together with a package deal of tablets for Enid. She gives the gadgets to Gary, who would not deliver the capsules to Enid. Instead, he suggests them to Denise when he picks her up on the airport. The pills, Bia's son-in-law stated, have been very addictive. Enid waits for Chip. They learn from the newspaper of the civil unrest in Lithuania, so she now concerns approximately him. That nighttime, Gary unearths Alfred hallucinating inside the restroom. Enid stays downstairs, leaving Gary and Denise to deal with Alfred. Gary talks to Alfred, settles him down, and receives him returned into bed. Denise knows that her mom wants her to live with them and help her with Alfred. She has had many activity gives on the grounds that leaving the generator. While she returns to Philadelphia from Big Apple, she finds a message from Emil saying he conventional the job of GovChef on the generator. Brian and Robin are separated and Denise has lunch. Will Robin? She refuses to look the women. Denise prepares her residence for her mother and father live as she lives off of her savings account. Before Christmas, Robin gives to help out along with her dad and mom several mornings a week. In the course of their discussion, Denise strikes Robin and says she does not need Robin in her lifestyles. Robin leaves. Denise leaves for St. Jude. With the aid of her 2-day in St. Jude, Enid is getting on Denise's nerves. She throws out quite a few vintage food and wine. In the return of the cupboard, she reveals an envelope addressed to Axon Business Enterprise. She indicates it to Alfred, and they query Enid. Enid says she lost the primary batch of files and sent in duplicates. Alfred already received the take a look at. Denise makes it clear that she does not want Enid interfering in her lifestyles when they arrive to Philadelphia. Enid guarantees that they might not and says she simply needs Denise to be glad. Denise enables Alfred with his sporting events and reveals out how careworn he's. She has to keep displaying him what to do and displaying that is right and left. Denise realizes that Enid and Alfred will in no way come to Philadelphia. Alfred tells her that and says he would not want to involve her in his problems. Afterward, Denise is going out for a stroll and thinks approximately her circle of relatives. She feels that Chip cannot see how plenty Alfred loves him. It is Chip that Alfred requires within the nighttime. In Vilnius, Chip is rescued on the airport by means of Gitanas and his buddies who are seeking to flee the town. They're observed and stopped. While they're searched, the men take Chip's bucks. The police sooner or later depart and Gitana says that he is now not a crook warlord. Chip says good. Bye to the institution and starts Evolve to walk to the border, taking walks. He crosses into Poland and makes it to Warsaw, wherein he boards a plane to Chicago in which he catches a flight to St. Jude. Alfred answers the door whilst Chip arrives. Chip is warmly greeted by means of his family. Enid says that this is the satisfactory Christmas present that she ever had. Chip showers in the downstairs bathroom even as Enid and Denise make breakfast. Gary is leaving that morning and desires to force the discussion approximately selling the residence, which being a family argument. He also confronts Enid about the pills and Denise says that Enid disposed of them. Gary leaves. After dinner, Chip goes out for a stroll. While he returns, he says he will open his presents within the morning. Enid comments that this is not the kind of Christmas that she desired. Alfred's situation has worsened a lot in the remaining days. Enid wishes Chip to stay extra than 3 days. Denise and Chip speak later that night. She asks Chip to live the next week to help Enid. Even as they speak, Alfred calls for Chip's assist and he goes upstairs. Alfred is within the hospital for statement to see if his confusion is drug brought about. Chip is there to assist him. Alfred begs Chip to get him out of the health center and Chip tells him he has to live for some other week. Alfred says he desires to die and wants Chip to assist him. Chip says he cannot. Inside the corrections, there is a stock market crash. Enid isn't always affected much because Alfred has their money in other economic devices. Alfred is in a nursing home and Enid is doing better in her very own residence that's appreciating in price. Chip fixes a number of the things on the house, so Gary lost the grounds for his argument to peer the residence. Denise has a new job in the Big Apple, and Enid spends 4 days together with her. Chip moves to Chicago and marries his female friend who is 7 months pregnant with their twins. He continues to work on his screenplay. Enid keeps to go to Alfred each day and maintains to tell him how incorrect he was and the way right she turned into all the one's years. He dies after 2 years in the nursing domestic,